Sounds good.
All right, Boris,
All right.
you hit it. Welcome to the third workshop. We're starting the session right away. We already have a question from Boris, and then Armeanio is going to start by going over the tokenomics for RosenBridge. Boris, go ahead with your question.
All right, thanks. So yeah, my question was, in this SPO workshop, are we focusing on the Cardano watchers to be also running the Ergo side? And is there any upsides, downsides? And yeah, that was my question.
All right, so with Rosen, as Rosen expands, we're going to have multiple chains brought into kind of the Rosen ecosystem, right? And I would encourage people that are participating to run multiple instances of watchers. And that's not necessarily limited to just Ergo and Cardano. That's where we're starting. But we have the ability to plug in 2 side chains on Cardano that are being developed. We have the ability to plug into other major chains as well, right? And so I would say that having efficient packaging definitely long-term would be a benefit. Now, one of the reasons why we wanted to start with the SPOs is because you guys have good uptime, right? You're already operating pools that are live, and that's basically the type of infrastructure providers that Rosen needs. So yeah, I would recommend that in our next workshop we're probably gonna do more kind of a hands-on tutorial type situation where we walk people through setup. That would be ideal. And so, although many people don't have any familiarity now, hoping that, as these workshops progress, we, get to that point. So you're kind of ahead of the curve.
All right, well, thanks. Yeah, I was just wondering if I should be doing any packages at all, but it seems like you've answered my question, so I will proceed.
Yeah, I would say long-term, that type of packaging is going to be critical, especially as Rosen expands. Let's say right now we have 2 instances. When we get to 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different potential endpoints, having that packaged efficiently is going to be really valuable. Hopefully,
awesome. Thank you.
Dogs barking. I don't know if that's coming through. Is it?
No.
Ah, good.
Joe, one thing that I wanted to mention to you, since you're the host, just keep in mind that you might have to admit people in from the waiting room.
I've been doing.
Okay, sounds good. Just wanted to point that out.
Any other questions before we kind of get into the Rosen token, why, and what the initial process is going to look like?
Well, if you guys have questions, feel free to just add them on the chat for now while Joe is going over his presentation or he's talking about the tokenomics, and we can get back to them after he's done. Okay, Joe, go for it.
Yep, 1 second. Let me pull it up and share my screen.
Interesting, we have QX with us today.
I was gonna say who let him in, but
yeah, is he a regular here or what?
I didn't want to miss out on the fun, guys.
You're welcome, man. You're welcome.
Look at this chest. Look at this chest pumping. My goodness.
I'm gonna hop out and hop back in. I gotta change some Zoom settings. Got privacy turned on.
All right. Leon, what are the system requirements for running a watcher?
MHS, want to take that for me while I restart Zoom?
And I'm pretty sure we also have these requirements on the slide that we shared with everybody. But Sam, do you just wanna, maybe cover this while Joe is rebooting again?
Yeah, if you are going to use public services like Ergo Node and Ergo as public ones, and using Koyos on Cardano side, it would be very light, and you need only 1 or 2 cores and a few gigabytes of RAM, maybe less than 40.
Sorry, you sounded a little bit far away. So basically what I heard, if you're going to use public services like Koyos, etc., then it's going to be really lightweight.
Yes.
All right, can everybody see
You
that?
need some, yeah, you need actually some data sources. on
Yes, we
both,
can see that, Joe.
You need some data sources for Ergo and Cardano sites. So you can use your own infrastructure. For example, you can run Orkmios and connect it to your own node, or you can use, for example, for the Ergo side, you can use your own node, but in Watcher side, you can only rely on public sources. So you can use a public Ergo node, public Explorer, and a public Koyos provider. So it would be very light in this case.
All right, thank you for
Does
that.
that make sense?
Did that answer your question, Boris?
That wasn't my question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it
cool.
was my question. It's answered.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
There's also a question here, super quick before Joe starts. Is where is the place we go to get people started or being brought through the steps? Will that be like a bi-monthly thing? So we will be having like a lot of content out in terms of how to set this up. And hopefully you guys, the SPOs, will have some content out for your fellow SPOs. So this is why we do this kind of workshops. So hopefully there's going to be a lot of material and content coming out on how we're going to do this step-by-step process. With that being said, we haven't covered that yet. So you're still early, and if you stick around with us, most likely you're going to get all that info. Joe, the mic is yours. I will sit back now.
All right, so the first question everybody has to ask when there's a token is, why is the token even needed, right? I think that's always a pretty grounded place to start. Why does Rosen need a token? It serves a couple of functions. The total supply of Rosen tokens is going to be 1 billion. It serves 3 primary functions. The first is simple resistance for the watcher set. The second is going to be, it's going to act as a mechanism of fee distribution. And the third is it has the potential to be used kind of as a utility token for service access. So let's kind of go.
Oh no, you're frozen again, man.
No.
He did this to me during a dev update one day. He's got to reboot his hard machine.
Armeanio, reboot your machine.
Yeah, Joe, thank you for muting yourself.
You got to reboot, Joe. It's
all
a
right,
dev
can we-
update issue.
Can we go to a different topic while he's rebooting, or?
Yeah, sure. You go for it. If there's more stuff, like we have Sam,
Yeah.
here. we have even C series here. We have a
Oh,
lot
actually,
of people to
I
answer
was going to
questions.
ask Sam too. Okay, so I'm a little bit confused.
One sec, Boris.
What?
Sorry.
What?
Joe is asking you, MHS, if you want to share this. So I'm assuming if you want to share your screen, and hopefully, I don't know, Joe is going to be talking through your screen. I don't know how is that going to work. But yeah, sorry, Boris, go
I
ahead,
can
man.
do it, but
Oh, No. I guess I had some questions like what kind of infrastructure the Guardians use versus the Watchers. So are the Watchers and the Guardians use the same kind of API infrastructure in terms of API, or how does that work? I know we don't really need
No,
to
it's
know the Guardian side, but still, you know.
currently it's actually different. You know, we designed Rosen in order to use several channels of data, and we will add to these channels pretty soon. So there would be a lot of options for each network. For example, as I said, for watchers, you have Ogmios option and Pulse option. There would be several options for the guard set too. But currently, our guard set is will rely on Pulse service, and the Ogmios part is not finished yet. And in future, we will add different channels. By the way, the reason behind that is in long term, each guard should have several nodes for different networks, and some of these networks have very high-ended and actually high-loaded nodes, for example, ETH or Bitcoin. So we want to provide a facility for them to, in order to be able to use different type of channels. So a combination of nodes will use different data sources. So if a guard has, for example, a running Bitcoin node, he can already attach to it. But for others, there would be an option to use light clients of Bitcoin, for example.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have some actually I have some experience with the Bitcoin API side because I was involved with the bridge and Aneta there. So yeah, I know all about what it feels like to run a Bitcoin API. It's not fun.
Yeah. Okay, let me. Should I share my screen for Joe?
Yeah, you know what, Sam? I'll make you a host so you can share your screen. And because, yeah, I think that would be the best way. And hopefully Joe will be able to go over it when he joins. I think he's still, he's still not in here.
Go for it.
But I made you a host for now. And I think Armeanio is here.
I'm trying to share.
Yeah, Joe is back. So Sam, if you want to share your screen, and hopefully Joe will be able to, yeah, we can see your screen now. Joe, you here? Hopefully not in a.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Mhm.
Okay, so Joe is on the mic and MHS Sam is on the keyboard.
Hey, let's go back to the previous section, Sam. I'm not sure which slide that is. Start with the Rosen token. Keep going. All right, that's a good starting point. Sorry about that, everybody. So the Rosen token, it's going to start with a total supply of 1 billion tokens. It serves 3 primary functions. The first is going to be Sybil resistance. It's going to put a cost for running infrastructure and also create kind of a slashing mechanism for watchers that ensures honesty. Second is it's used as a mechanism for fee distribution, which is really important for a bridge. Ultimately, the goal with Rosen is to create a machine that generates liquidity across markets, which assists and kind of its base function of connecting markets. The third is going to be it can act as a utility token in terms of being purchased and used for service access. This type of infrastructure, does have value. It's something that I would say competes with central exchanges, and so it can be monetized in a way that benefits kind of the scarcity of supply and the watchers in general. Why don't we go to the next slide? So as a Sybil resistance mechanism, the general goal here is to impose a cost on an individual who wants to operate multiple instances at the same time. I'm sure as many of you are stake pool operators, you know that that's actually incredibly difficult to fully prevent in a actual open ecosystem. Hence, you kind of have multi-pool operators, single pool operators. I guess there's always certain friction there in Cardano. And the same possibility is true with the RosenBridge, where someone can potentially run multiple instances. And so what we need to do is we need to put an economic cost on that to kind of prevent a single actor from fully dominating the system. Now, one nice thing about the watcher set is they do not actually settle transactions. So even if in theory somebody did control enough watcher sets to create a kind of event permit, they would still have to go through a secondary layer of auditing. So, in theory, if they were to try to manipulate the outcome of RosenBridge, they would just put themselves in a position where they're subject to a larger slash. But we are hoping to create incentives for a fair and open market. That's ultimately the goal in kind of creating that barrier of entry. So the long-term goal is to move towards a Rosen-centric Sybil resistance mechanism or cost. We're going to start using the ERG token as it's established on markets. Now, we do get into this bootstrapping problem, right? And that's kind of an interesting thing to consider here is that, long-term, we can potentially update to use ADA as collateral or Ethereum as collateral. The difference is we need to have that chain already connected in order to access that token. So, we can look at the idea of facilitating future transfers between Cardano and Cardano-centric sidechains. In the Cardano ecosystem, it actually makes probably more sense to use ADA as collateral. When we get into other ecosystems and kind of their own various side chains or layer twos, it may make sense to use that native token as collateral rather than something like ERG or ADA, simply because people that are kind of most active in those ecosystems will have that collateral. But we're going to start with ERG because, well, that's where the bridge needs to bootstrap from. And we go to the next slide. So we're talking about starting the cost of running a watcher relatively high. We assume that at first there's going to be kind of a smaller set of watchers. Maybe that's wrong, maybe that's right. Let's see. As the bridge grows, activity grows, kind of the economic use of the bridge, we're going to see more fees, and more fees is going to kind of make it more attractive to be a watcher. So basically, when you spin up the watcher package, you need to lock that amount, which is an adjustable parameter, because obviously we are in kind of a volatile industry, and so they need to kind of reflect reality. You can look at pricing right now is somewhat low due to market conditions, but in better market conditions, we would want to lower that barrier of entry to make it more accessible. So when you lock those, you receive an NFT that allows you to purchase what's called a watcher permit. Now, this collateral is not at risk of seizure in any way. It's simply putting an economic cost on running a watcher. So it's something that is redeemable, by every watcher, and it's basically not subject to slashing. So event permits are actually a really important part of the Rosen framework. They're available for watchers to purchase via the Rosen token. So when you are reporting an event, you basically put the event permit in kind of a state where it's used to report a transaction, right? And at that point, the event permit is kind of in use. And so if a watcher wants to watch many events, they need to have the number of event permits to reflect that. Now, what happens to an event permit when it's actually settled and it's seen as true? It's returned to the watcher with a reward. So it's something that kind of cycles through the Rosen system. Now, a watcher may want to have multiple permits in order to basically report multiple events. But it's important to recognize that these permits will kind of be inaccessible until the transaction is settled. Now, this is probably one of the most important things we need to optimize long-term, working with the watchers, is to look at how these parameters can be used to kind of scale or have some idea of throughput with the Rosen system. That's going to happen through how permits circulate. Now, on one hand, the cost of that permit is what is subject to slashing in kind of the Rosen framework, to where if watchers submit inaccurate information, that permit is not going to go back to them, and they're going to lose their ability to report with that one permit, which did come with a cost. So we have this barrier of entry cost for running a watcher, and we also have this idea of the cost of reporting. So you can say, if we have a lot of transactions in the future, which is ultimately the goal, we need to be wary that we have enough reporting permits, based on the price of them, to be able to settle the volume of transactions that are moving through the bridge. So, it may benefit us long term to say, okay, we need to make that barrier of entry very low so we can get as many watchers as possible. And we also, always need to be somewhat cautious of the cost of reporting, as it is ultimately what is slashed when inaccurate data is posted. So these two parameters are adjustable, and I think there's going to kind of be a sweet spot that we need to find in order to effectively scale Rosen to where there's enough watchers and reports that exist on each given chain to kind of optimize the time that it takes for an event box to be triggered and basically move to the next layer of settlement. Now, we get into this idea of fee distribution. So whenever a token is going to be bridged in the RosenBridge, fees are going to be collected as a result. That's an adjustable parameter per token. And that's something that collectively we need to kind of discuss in terms of how we want to proceed and optimize that. Each chain's instance has an adjustable parameter for fee distribution between the guards and the watchers. I'll use the example here. Let's say we move to a new chain and we want to bootstrap a healthy community of watchers. It may make sense to say, hey, we're going to have a period where we're going to incentivize watchers to watch this chain by giving them a higher distribution of fees. It is something that can be used to, let's just say, make it a little bit more economically profitable. You may have a chain that's not so active, and so you may want to do the same thing where you give the watchers a higher percentage to make sure that there's enough permits coming in to activate trigger events and
kind of optimize the bridge flow. So the net goal is to use these adjustable parameters to optimize cost adoption in new environments, incentivize infrastructure, and ultimately be competitive. Why don't we go to the next slide, MHS? So Rosen is going to try to seek to optimize liquidity by opening markets through the use of the Rosen token. Fees will accumulate and be deposited into exchanges along with a corresponding Rosen pair. So over time, what's going to happen is the fees are actually going to be moved and locked on public decentralized exchanges. And so obviously watchers are getting paid in Rosen, and so they have a certain flexibility in terms of what they would like to redeem. Now, the Rosen token will reflect the value of the fee that is transferred. Why don't we go to the next slide? And so what will happen is, let's say you have $10 worth of token A. 70% will be distributed in terms of the Rosen value to watchers, 30% to the guards, and that gives them the ability to redeem. Now, a watcher may say, hey, I want to take these Rosen tokens and buy more permits so I can optimize my, let's say, revenue stream of my watcher. The goal over time with this system is to build a broad set of assets that essentially build liquidity across markets. Why don't we go back one, MHS? So the net goal here is to allow watchers to basically build a business if they'd like to. They have the ability to cash out across multiple assets. If they'd like to, they can also passively stake, which is a part of the tokenomics. It's not going to be, the sexiest yield in the world, but it is something that, a watcher may be interested in doing if, for whatever reason, the chain is inactive and there's not a lot of activity. It gives them kind of a passive income flow. So Rosen serves as liquidity access, and that has value. So there is a potential for watchers and guards to work together to monetize that and use that token to where, let's say I'm running project A, and perhaps being that the fees are adjustable, I may say, hey, I want to optimize my project on Rosen. That is a potential service that could be packaged and paid for with the Rosen tokens. It's also a question long term as the bridge becomes more congested and projects say, hey, I want token support. There could be some equivalent to a tiered fee that projects may want to pay for support. As Rosen expands, I think that the first priority is going to be to support tokens that already are kind of optimized to market, but long term it would be really nice to see pretty open path for any project to get support. Why don't we go to the next slide? So we're going to talk about our basic path to market and get into the tokenomics. Again, we're starting with the initial total supply of 1 billion Rosen tokens. We're going to have 2 initial token emissions. We have this idea with Rosen of liquidity bootstrapping, which is important for building liquidity on the bridge, TVL, kind of bootstrapping markets. On Ergo, we're going to start with a simple IDO. Why don't you go to the next slide, Sam? So we're going to take 5% of the token supply. We're going to lock a Rosen Erg pair on Spectrum, which is currently the leading DEX in the Ergo ecosystem. And that's going to remain locked for 12 months. That allows anybody in the Ergo ecosystem to have access to that pair if they'd like to come into the Rosen ecosystem.
That's going to kind of be the initial liquidity. On Cardano, we're planning on setting up a ISPO where we're going to take 5% of the supply, spin up a pool, set the fee at 99%, kind of have a dynamic emission based on the average epic price on the Ergo Rosen pair. And we're going to keep that pool live until that 5% emission is complete. I'm a big fan of single pool operators, so I would not support anything other than being a single pool. So no secondary pool will be supported in that process. And the ADA that's raised from the ISPO is actually going to end up as liquidity on DEXs. That's going to be how Rosen moves into new ecosystems, is you're going to go through liquidity bootstrapping events. So let's say you move into Ethereum, they have multiple tools that are actually still kind of evolving, where you can bring a token and use either something like a DEX offering or some I guess it depends on the chain, kind of exotic mechanisms to bootstrap liquidity, and ultimately that will get locked on market and become publicly available, which means you as a watcher, if you're getting paid out in Rosen tokens, you can choose from multiple, let's say, coins or core assets across multiple ecosystems and cash out your rewards. The question that we have to ask is going to be the most efficient method of raising funds chain to chain. It's an evolving space. So if we're talking, Ethereum today versus Ethereum, in a couple of months, let's see if there's any new tooling. Same if we talk about, Avalanche or any other smart contract chain. That's kind of an evolving space. But allocations of the tokenomics are going to be based on these liquidity bootstrapping events, which the goal is to raise the core coin of different networks, lock them, and kind of set up liquidity that then can circulate across the Rosen network. So this is our basic tokenomics. 3% of it is going to go to the Ergo Foundation. I'm sure that some people are saying, hey, Armeanio, aren't you a member of the Ergo Foundation? Well, in this case, I'm either going to have to recuse myself or resign, right? Because I'm not a big fan of double dipping. The treasury is going to be managed primarily by an application on Ergo called Paideia. We're going to set up kind of a community and team-based organization to help manage a lot of the adjustable parameters, work with different perhaps airdrops, marketing events, community-based, maybe online, offline events. That's going to kind of be determined by that entity as we set it up. There's going to be a lot of engineering that's required as we move across multiple ecosystems, because we have to start to understand their kind of core node infrastructure, how best to integrate the watcher and guard set into each particular chain. So we've allocated 10.5% for kind of long-term development fund. This 2.5% passive staking is actually going to be event-based. Now, one thing that you need to keep in mind is it's going to always be dependent on the amount of people that are staking. So as more people stake, the actual APY is going to be a little bit diluted. But it does kind of give watchers the ability to have some idea or notion of passive income if they're not actively working with reporting permits. 25% of the emission is going to be event-based. That's basically a fee event on the stage. And future liquidity bootstrapping has to do with raising funds as we move into new ecosystems. Now, that's pretty important because it ultimately is the path to building TVL that can then circulate, whether it's through, Ethereum, Cardano, Ergo, whatever market is most efficient. We'll try to distribute that liquidity across ecosystems to kind of create a market condition where there's mispricing, right? Because mispricing ultimately is one of the primary drivers of bridging, is when you can buy in one environment, sell in another for a profit. That arbitrage potential is going to be important for the long-term growth and health of Rosen. So we're going to use liquidity bootstrapping events to accumulate multiple core tokens and distribute them across the Rosen ecosystem to help facilitate kind of broader liquidity, slippage, arbitrage, primary trading use cases for a bridge. Any questions? I see a couple that are being typed.
No, I think you're good. I think you're good.
Yeah, we have a question from Christoph G. Cardano SPO, I forget, will Rosen be claimed from like Tosi drop? That's something that's ultimately going to be up to the treasury allocation here. We do have an allocation in the tokenomics. We want to spin up kind of this Paideia DAO, and then we're going to talk about how we can perhaps use Tosi drop, perhaps use Drips drop, perhaps use, some combination even if we want to distribute tokens to stakeholders across multiple pools. That's something that we need to kind of look at in each ecosystem that we bridge into, is how can we kind of distribute the Rosen token and use that as either a marketing or a kind of lead into kind of broader awareness in ecosystems. So that's something that we've talked about, considered. I know Tosi Drop does good work with the Cardano. I think it's like the Single Pool Alliance, something like that.
All the Tosi Drop pools are part of the CSPA, which is Single Pool Alliance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's one thing that once we have that infrastructure in place, I'd be happy to, talk about how we can kind of leverage partners in the Cardano ecosystem to assist in kind of marketing and brand awareness. That's important.
We'll be in touch, Boris and BBHMM.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we could do full chain-wide distributions for, listed addresses. We just focus on single pool operators, if a delegate is in that. But we could do full chain.
Sure. So, one of the that's one path we would like to figure out kind of as a collective as we move forward. What would be kind of the best way to increase our presence, adoption, and kind of grow that use case. As we move into each ecosystem, we're going to have to kind of go through this process of bootstrapping liquidity and then building kind of brand awareness in different environments. That's the part of what that treasury is there for. Any other questions?
I don't see anything else in the chat. Is there anybody here in the audience that would like to ask anything? We still have about 50 minutes to go. We can also go over some of the questions that we have from Discord if nobody here has any questions. So if there's going to be silence for the next 30 seconds, I'm just going to go on Discord now and find one of the questions the guys have. Oh, actually, I do have a good one, which is one of the latest. Is there an estimate of when the binaries will be available? That's a question from Oysterpool, and I know Sami wanted to hear an answer to that as well.
For a starter, go with Docker images, but later we will publish binaries. So we will launch Rosen with darker image, and they are ready actually. And as soon as you are getting ready for the launch, we will publish the tutorials and the darker images for public.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I see another one from Eric here. What's the target number of watchers you're looking for? The more the merrier, I will say, but maybe
Yeah,
Eric
well,
has yeah.
it's hard to say. No, I personally, I would like to at least see, 30 to start with, right? That would be optimal. But one thing you have to recognize is that submitting these event permits is somewhat similar to I don't know, almost like miners selecting transactions from the mempool in proof of work, right? So there's going to be different strategies that develop. If you're a watcher that has a lot of permits, you may want to just try to report on everything, right? If you're a watcher with less permits, you may want to say, okay, I want higher value transactions. So there's going to actually be different kind of economic models that develop as Rosen goes live, and as traffic changes, right? That's a part of why we put this idea of passive staking, is that, in lower periods, it may be beneficial for a watcher to say, hey, I can, passively stake, and I'll earn, it's kind of a slower fee. But you will yield something, right? And then in higher periods, there may be more demand for permits, and there may be more demand for more watchers, right? I think ultimately it's going to be driven by kind of the economic use case or revenue, and that's somewhat hard to predict in crypto because it's a volatile market. But we're going to try to build a product that has the core infrastructure that's required for bridging, which is liquidity across multiple environments, right? And that will naturally attract traders, people that want to accumulate various tokens from different ecosystems, and it will then create market inefficiency, which a bridge will help fix.
Also, one of the things that I wanted to mention, like in general for SPOs, obviously you've thought about it, but I think it's good to say that out loud. It's being a watcher is and having this extra stream of income, it would be very beneficial for whoever would like and decide to do it. But you can share your Rosen tokens or a portion of your Rosen tokens with your delegators if you decide to, and that would be an extra marketing for you, and a good reason for delegators to be attracted on your pool. So obviously, again, about all that, but the more pools we can get to, as watchers, and them to get more income and distribute it in any way they want, I think it's going to be a big win for the whole Cardano ecosystem as a whole.
My hope for Cardano stake pool operators is that as RosenBridge grows and is successful, that watcher can turn somewhat into the equivalent of a cash flowing asset. The hosting requirements are going to be lower than what you're doing, running your pools. And I would hope that we grow to where it simply is a supplementary income. Now, just like running your stake pool, there is an element of competition there in terms of what you're going to run, and there's going to be different strategies that come about. I'm going to leave that up to you to try to figure that out, to collectively optimize that for yourself or for your pool. That's ultimately your business, but it is my hope that watcher infrastructure over time simply creates that extra revenue stream that I know many single pool operators especially could use.
Yeah. I'm just going through the questions because we have another 10 minutes and I want to make sure we cover everything from in terms of questions. I think we answered Eric's. So Christoph says using Paideia sounds good. Oyster, is it possible to submit a false report by accident and have tokens slashed by accident?
No, it's not possible actually, because actually watchers are not reporting directly. The first step of reporting is committing to some report, and when it's false or by accident, no other watchers will also commit the same report. So there will be no triggered event, and the guards will not get aware of that event. And after a while, the blockchain will get rid of that commitment, and you will get a refund. The slashing actually happens when a group of watchers maliciously could call together and trigger guards by creating a false report action.
Thank you, Sam. Christoph has another one. The watcher pledge limit is interesting. I wonder if it will hold or be circumvented. I would assume, yeah, like what's happening in Cardano, I guess. Do we want to say something on that? We want to comment anything on that about the watcher pledge limit?
Sure. You're talking about kind of the barrier of entry, or like civil cost.
Yep.
That's something that's very hard to. Is it possible that someone comes in and they run multiple watcher instances? Yes, absolutely. That's not something that you can fully control in a open protocol, right? But what we can try to do is make it economically competitive. Now, you know, one thing that I'm hoping comes into place long term is as we connect to multiple chains, that competition becomes let's just say more favorable for I don't know, smaller operators, right? Because if you're going to run multiple watcher instances on multiple chains and you're constantly you know, let's say having to buy, submit, and use reports, well, I'm hoping we get enough traffic that, you know, that's just not sustainable to scale with. And that's where smaller actors can come in and, you know, participate.
Cool. DS9 Rob says, I'm exciting. I may have something I see being able to expand with the cross sale of Cardano gaming NFTs using RosenBridge, but to get the Cardano NFT where the value is. I'm not sure what we have to say on this, but yes, it is.
Oh, no, I'll speak to it. One of the reasons.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I'm not sure what to say, but yes, please go ahead, Joe.
Oh, one of the reasons why Rosen is open source is because we do feel that this tooling is valuable. And although, you know, in the core framework itself, Rosen isn't going to be used as an NFT bridge. Somebody could certainly take the code, modify it, and run it as an NFT bridge, but it would also require incentives and collaboration between NFT communities, and sometimes artists are a bit fickle with each other. Let's just say that. But it is possible to modify aspects of Rosen to have that capability. It's not something that we plan on building anytime soon, but part of why we always go the open source way is, you know, is certainly if watchers even wanted to take that expanded play with it, they're welcome to.
Yeah, that'd be sick. And I actually see an answer from MHS Sam on the question that we had earlier. And he says, no, guards will not get away of it with the slashing. Like, the question was, is it possible to submit a false report by accident and have tokens slashed by accident? And Sam says, no, guards will not get away. Slashing happens when a group of watchers finalizes a report and trigger guards.
Yep.
So that, yeah, that's a great answer to that. And then Boris is just sealing toss to drop, so I'm not gonna, yeah. Yeah, that's all the questions we have from the chat here. We still have 5 more minutes. Here, okay, Chad, what are the next chains on the list after Ergo and Cardano? Joel, I know the answer, but you can take that.
Sure. So our next 2 primary targets are going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, one nice thing about Bitcoin and Ethereum is they're widely reused, right? If you look at, like, they're heavily forked. So then the barrier of entry to Bitcoin forks and to EVM compatible chains is easier. That's not to say there's not, it's kind of specialty parameters we need to pay attention to, and but it certainly will get easier to move it through the EVM environment, and also kind of the BTC and friend environment with those 2. Now, another one beyond that is we're looking at the possibility of getting support with Binance Smart Chain, and what that would do is that would put Cardano assets in Binance's radar and potentially put them in a position to where the barrier of entry to getting listed on Binance is a hell of a lot cheaper than just going and paying them, which would be pretty nice to see. And that's ultimately one thing with Rosen that I think is kind of the real benefit to the ecosystem and projects in ecosystems, is that barrier to external liquidity gets lower.
Yeah, I'm doing a last call for questions. We have a few more, couple more here. What was the reward split, Guardian versus Watcher?
We're going to start with 70% of the rewards going to the Watchers and 30% going to the Guardians. Now, these are adjustable parameters, as I covered earlier, and one of the benefits of that is bootstrapping a new environment. So let's say that we go and we start to create the infrastructure for a new chain. We may want to say, hey, for a month we're going to run at 95% to Watcher and 5% to the Guards, just so we get people to kind of incentivize them to start watching and reporting on that particular chain. So it is something that is going to always require a certain element of governance, and that's a part of why we want to spin up Paideia, because it's coming together as a pretty nice governance tool for this type of project.
Let's just go with the last question. Sister Pi, I don't know who that guy is, but he says, do we know do we know how much collateral is required to spin up a Watcher?
To spin up a Watcher,
what's the collateral that you need?
We're going to start with $1,000 in ERG token, and $1,000 in Rosen is going to be the base entry. Now, that is not something that's subject to slashing. So if anybody in the Cardano ecosystem already has 1,000 ERG sitting around, they can put it as collateral, and it's not something that is going to be at risk of seizure for being a Watcher. It's simply putting an economic cost on running that infrastructure. So, someone like Chef doesn't spin up infinite amount of Watchers. It has to have some real cost associated with running that infrastructure. Otherwise, we'd run into some security issues.
I don't know why you brought up my name as spinning up so many Watchers. I'm not sure.
The guy on the screen right now.
Because I might will. That's why I'm asking. No, I'm just kidding. I think we're good with the questions here. Rob says thank you for the response, of course. We cover pretty much everything. So I think we're good to conclude our workshop, the third workshop for Rosen. There's going to be an email coming out with all the summary of this workshop. I will also have the slides attached to it, so you guys can do your homework. Keep in mind that one of the biggest things that we need from all of you, all the SPOs and the community members, is that please start pumping up educational content around all of those things so we can educate the Cardano community more, and more people will get to know about this. More SPO will see this, and hopefully we'll start, you know, participate more, and that way we have a lot more watchers as we spin up Rosen, and hopefully we can have a big set of decentralization there from the get-go and just grow our ecosystem. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Joe, I'm not sure if you have any closing thoughts, anything else that you would like to share before we conclude the workshop?
No, I'm excited to, you know, spin up this framework and kind of work collectively to optimize it. I do think that there's a lot of value there, and I can deliver quite a lot of value to people and projects across ecosystems.
Awesome. You guys have a great rest of your day. Enjoy your weekend, and the YouTube recording is going to be up fairly soon. And within the next days, you're going to get an email with information, a summary about what happened, and we'll have more information about fourth workshop. Most likely it's going to happen in a couple of weeks, few weeks from now. Any questions, anything else you have, our DMs, messages, emails, Discords, everything is open. So feel free to communicate with us. And any questions or else anything else you might have, we're always happy and here to answer. Take care, guys.
Have a good one.